two women coming into the place there, and the guy deciding, okay, well, if this woman says that's her baby and that other woman says that's her baby, well, we will see what will happen. The best thing is, hey, guys, come, bring the swords, and let's cut this baby into two. Rarely did those two know what was about to happen. What that guy had in mind was that, hey, if you have somebody who really produced that baby, that person is going to say, no, stop the cutting of the baby. Don't cut the baby at all. Let that baby go to this other person who continues to say, well, let's cut a baby and what have you. And that's how Solomon was able to break that. Or what about a king who had all these all these women, David, who had all these women and all that, but was not satisfied. He wanted to pluck another person's wife. One wife to that man, and because he so was insatiable, he wanted to get that woman to bed. And what did that prophet do? He used what? Our story. So stories are very much important. Stories tend to provide lessons. Stories call us to reflect. Stories call us to really think through whatever we are doing. And in that process, you will find that stories and poems, because actually some poems tell stories, all those things are connected. Short of the long is that, as you will see on the next slide, the first slide, for instance, literature feeds people's sense of curiosity. We want to know what is happening and what is happening beyond that. Literature also feeds people the need for fun and laughter. You know, I like in America and other countries, in Europe, for instance, people pay. Just imagine how much comedians make. And you see, this guy gets on the stage and makes people laugh, people falling off their seats. That's anything. But actually, stress relievers, anything that releases stress, that's nothing, because stress can kill. It leads to neurotic disorder, and that neurotic disorder can kind of metastasize in so many other things. So please get the so you see. Literature feeds people the need for information, the need for inspiration. Certain things inspire us to do good. This To Kill a Mockingbird. So let's go face to face. To Kill a Mockingbird. Here, this story is told about a black young man who would have died because, they accuse him of killing, they accuse him of rape. And on that basis, he is about to be lynched and all that kind of thing. And a young little girl stares her father into action. And the father, a lawyer, does what he can do. Eventually, the boy's life is spared. But the thing about it is, it is the inspiration. Yeah. We read stories, we hear stories, and those stories inspire us to be the best part of ourselves. It is true literature. It is true literature. We get those things. Literature feeds people the need for guidance, and of course, simply conversation. We never so easily know the importance of conversation until the COVID came around. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you couldn't get to your friend, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do the other thing. You wanted to go, no, you couldn't go out because of the fear of catching COVID and all that. So literature offers a lot. Literature enhances our humanity. Literature makes us critical thinkers, because once we see stories, we see poems or hear them and what have you, and we get to a point of wanting to know why these things are placed where they are placed, you get a sense that, humanity is not just the flesh that we see, but the kind of minds created, the kinds of things that are created through the mind that other people look at and can take heart or something of that sort.
But
Look at again some.
Yeah, the way you are saying it now is like literature is everything because you cover everything.
That is true, because for me, my definition of literature is life. Literature is life. So everything to do about life, the way we feel, the way we think, the way we do so many things. Literature is at the center of it. You remind me, some time ago, there was a national conference called in Nigeria, and someone like Chinua Achebe was left out, and Achebe took issue with that, and he wrote wrote an essay titled "What Has Literature Got to Do with This?" And in there he demonstrated the importance of literature. The idea is that stop producing literature, life does not exist. I know someone will say, well, if a doctor came about, he would say something about medicine or what have you. But at the heart of it all, that which breathes life, breathes what? Breathes our very existence.
And this is why you say about life.
Yes. The comment here is that life, I don't care how you look at it, life is strange and very long. You will say, well, what about somebody who was born today and died the next day? But the idea is that it may be that one person in that one category. But generally, life is a very long journey and it's very strange. I don't care how many people have lived on earth. Every time there is something new, even though in the past it may not have been new because people have known it. The reality is that there is something about life. There is your own children, how they go about and what have you. Sometimes one of them will do something and say, all these years, I never knew you would do anything. You have friends, you have relatives. All these years, you say, I never would think that this child would do this thing to me, deny me and all that kind of a thing. How did it come about? We never so easily know. Therefore, when we turn to literature, literature provides cushion. Literature provides lessons that we can take up and run with. In that process, somebody who is very much emotionally invested in literature, nothing so easily a kind of surprises that person so much. Yes, shocks here and there, but never to an extent to say, well, I never thought this would happen. So actually, literature provides lessons throughout.
I was talking to a historian, and he said, well, nothing surprises me. I'm not rattled by circumstances because almost everything I see, there is a lesson from history. Now I'm hearing from literature too.
And then he says, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that point in, DJ, because actually literature and history are twins. It's like you talk about day and night. Literature, that's why sometimes when some people, this other person, he history, this other person, I just laugh. I say, this person who is saying that doesn't even know the essence of history, doesn't even know the essence of literature. All those talk about life. History talks about not just stories. History talks about actions and reactions. History provides lessons, which if we kind of put some faith in them, we can do things a little differently. So yes, history is about the story of life. Literature is about the story of life. You remind me of Plato, Aristotle and his poetics. He talks about, when you ask him about history, he says that history is limited. History is limited. Literature is expansive, because history will tell you a date, tell you a name, tell you a region and all that. But what literature does is that it takes all those things there and expand on them, bringing in the creative juice of individuals. So actually, anybody who says that literature is far removed from history, or history is far removed from literature, that person doesn't know those disciplines. That person doesn't know those disciplines.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Literary Hour with Dr. K. Moses Nagbe. We are discussing a trip through the craft, and we're going to look specifically at poems and short story. We're just warming up about the importance of literature.
Yes.
Prof, there's part of literature is to write it, and the other part is to read it, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So when we're talking about all this about literature, what are we focusing on here? Is it a reading? Is it a writing, or both?
Both. Each leans on the other. If you write, because at one point you are using the skill of bringing words, phrases, and paragraphs together, lines together. That's what you are doing when you are writing. And in reading, you are being expressive. You are being expressive. There are, of course, you will find out that there are people who do well in writing, and they do not possess the skill. And that is not a minus, really. It is simply to say that every profession has cubicles of cubicles of a kind of skills that you want to use. So writing is equally as important as reading. And in reading, there's the expressiveness and all that kind of thing to kind of bring the written word to life. That is all much of the reason why actors and actresses are also very much important. Some set of words, some set of information on a page. Somebody who reads well collects that thing and begins to express and use gesticulation, all that kind of a thing. And all of a sudden, those words that seem to be nothing come alive, and people begin to clap and all that kind of a thing. So both depend one on the other.
So let's go into some poetry.
Yes. Yes.
And first, one of the things before we even start out, poetry is, writing it is very hard. I don't know what you think about it. So before we even come to some example of poetry, tell me about poetry.
Yeah. You a lot of these things, we will say that we get the history and all those things from Western civilization. But again, you remember, if you do remember, Miss Jackie and I, when we were talking about certain things, especially when we got to feminism, and people were giving us Western history of feminism as if feminism was something that was esoteric coming from a particular culture. When actually, where you have women, where you have men and what have you, everyone has got to defend his or her territory. So you cannot say that it's a Western thing. But be that as it may, we have been schooled in Western thought, and therefore sometimes our first reference is to talk about the origins of poetry and these other things. Poetry from Greek culture, poetry simply means making images or making pictures. That is what poetry is. All right. So of all the things, of all the genres we've been able to talk about, or people talk about, literature, poetry is deliberative. Literature, there is some intentionality about it. There is some purposefulness of that form. This is not to say that people do not think through when they write short stories. People do not think through but we are saying the first order of business within the context of the craft of literature goes to poetry. People began by making images, rituals and what have you. So these things over time bloom into something specific and very sacred, if you want to call it that way. So poetry has some sacredness about it, some more than seriousness about it. That is all the reason why I know some of what I'm about to say holds true today. But in the distant past, if you were a poet, people regarded you with so much wisdom. If you were a poet, people almost treated you like a demigod, because you went to sleep. That's why you talk about the muses, M-U-S-E-S. It was believed that those were people who commune with you while you were asleep. People commune, those gods and goddesses, they commune with you, the highly regarded poets commune with them, so that when they got up the next morning and they wrote something, it became so powerful. Nobody could write something so much elegant with the use of words, so much elegant as far as the thoughts were concerned, without some strange heavenly soul getting into that person's head and getting talk about Homer and the Iliad, talk about Homer and talk about the Odyssey. All these powerful Greek poems that have endured through the years. Talk about Dante and his Inferno. All these people. You couldn't be an ordinary person. People believe you couldn't be an ordinary person and produce those things. So poetry, for a long time, has held a special place of imagination. Has held a very important place as far as critical thinking is concerned.
Can poetry be oral? Because as far as I remember, in the villages, some of the songs the people sing are like poetry.
In fact, that is a very important question, DJ. As if you hadn't even brought up good questions. Just a way of emphasis. That's why I'm saying that's a very much. In fact, poetry originated in orality. Poetry originated in orality, so that, for instance, that's where rhymes have come from. That's where, because poetry began in orality, there was an element to make people at least remember the lines. So to remember the lines, when one line ended, you got the word, and the other line that was ending had to come near to that word or be that word itself, to make sure that you knew that you were on the right track in terms of remembering all the lines, the griots and all those colors. Yes, so poetry began in orality.
Let's look at some poems then.
Yes. You have to keep in mind that, again, poetry taps into a lot of things. Poetry taps into history by, laying out some historical things. History taps into philosophy and all those. Poetry also a kind of give the emotions, the feelings of people at a given time in the people's life. That is why you can talk about protest literature, you can talk about revolutionary literature, and poetry and all that kind of a thing. So all these things, if you go through the whole line of poetry and what have you, if you go into the pool of literature, poems and all those, you are going to find out that at given epochs in a people's life, you will find poems that reflect those. You will find short stories that reflect them. You will find other things that reflect one or two of those things. I'm talking about the reflection. You will talk about William Faulkner's A Rose for Emily. And in there, you will talk about the immediate past slavery activity in America, and one aristocratic family that make believe had this particular thing to go to. Now, the poems that you had, there was a time in Liberia, as if the time has gone by. No, there are ripples of that. In the 1970s, there was this strong advocates for social change and what have you. And there were young people, young adults. Some of them were some of them were at the University of Liberia, and some of them were at Cottington College. Some of them were at the William V.S. Thomas High School and what have you. These people, these young people, were the engines, were the foot soldiers of the revolutionary days in the 1970s. And it is from there that I drew, because this is an hour we can't bring all those things. I just a little taste here and there. And this boy, this young man, Wee Diba, Wee is dead. Wee is dead, and of course, all those in the first 4 poems, all the writers are dead. But Wee and Morris died young. So we can talk about if we must struggle, and then go to When Things Chakla. Okay, so let's do When Things. I'm coming. When Things Chakla.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia Literary Hour with Professor K. Moses Nagbe. We are discussing a trip through the craft.
Yes.
And we're going to be reading some poems here, starting with the one that says When Things Chakla.
Yes.
And, if you have the copy already, you can turn to that page, or you can Google it, if possible, if you can find it. But we'll open the phone lines as well so that you can participate. Keep your comments coming. Yeah. This is a discussion, a conversation, if you will.
Yes.
So don't hold back. Keep typing, keep calling. We're going to open the phone line shortly and go through some poems here, starting with When Things Chakla. We have other poems that we'll be reading.
When Things Chakla, when the poem Things Chakla came on board, it became more like the national anthem. It became like the national anthem of the struggle. It was just the other day that I got to know the father of Morris Citro. You know Ase Citro?
Yeah.
Ase Citro. Morris should be the first cousin of Isaac's. Morris should be the first cousin of Isaac Citro. And Chakla is one of those words that have entered our local English.
Right.
And you know that Liberian English has gotten to its own peculiarity by virtue of bringing in a number of local expressions. Okay, but I don't like what you're doing there. Ba is what, friend? Eh? I went to the place the guy played, but he bate. He won't come out, something like that. He's scared or what have you. But anyway, this is Morris Citro's poem, When Things Chakla. Chakla means things in disarray. Chakla means things turn topsy-turvy, as if you were talking about a thunderstorm has blown through a piece of land, or a hurricane has blown through that piece of land. So this is poetry can also provide warning. And here is Morris Citro kind of throwing out the warning to the powers at the time. When things chakla, it chaklas for the blind. It chaklas for the crippled. It chaklas for the deaf. a chaklas for the dumb, a chaklas for the rich, a chaklas for the young, a chaklas for the old, a chaklas for the black, a chaklas for the white, a chaklas for the nation. When things chakla by Maurice Citro. Looking back on what's happened in nearly 20 years of war in that country, you cannot deny the fact that this guy happened to be a prophet.
Yeah.
Throwing out the warning, people, we are talking, and nobody is paying heed. Mind you, when things turn topsy-turvy, everybody is going to spell it. And then, of course, you know you can have a variance of that. What they say, town trap is not for what?
Right along.
Right along.
The first time I heard that was, I think it was rewritten or paraphrased by the late Samuel Doki just before the war. So you know, my young man thought he was the one who originally wrote it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You see, that's one of those things. People must be honest enough. Once in a while, people think that I wrote this poem. I said, no, I didn't write this poem. You know, you can't get me. You can't get me to accept, even as beautiful as this poem. You can't get me to agree that I wrote it. No, I didn't write it for anything at all. This was, and the sad thing about it, DJ, is that this guy wrote the poem. The very week that this poem came out, he was involved in an accident.
Wow.
Yes, he was involved in an accident. And the sad thing also is that the father was a pilot. At some time ago, there was a new plane being taken, I think, from India or somewhere there, and was being brought to Liberia as part of Liberian Air Fleet. The guy's father was involved in the air crash, and he also died. Yes, he was one of the pilots with the Liberian. The Liberian. What is it? AFL. He was with AFL, the air wing of the AFL. That's what Citro. I knew the father. Well, not knowing the father, but when we were very young in Sastown, my hometown, he was every now and then flying to that area there, and it was a pride to see our own people, piloting planes, because out there those days, the Spanish, this guy who was was that Cuenca, this guy who had an airline, he used to fly to some part of Lofa and all that. So he used to employ a lot of Spanish pilots. So to have found black people, not only black people, but Liberians, and not only that, but crew and all that, that was a pride. Unfortunately, he died.
Let's get one more poem, and then we go to short stories.
Okay, all right. Let's do Wee.
Okay.
Wee Diba's poem again. They happen to be along the tradition of protest writers in Liberia. These were college students, and they were, like I said, they were foot soldiers. Of course, mostly in the struggle, in Liberia, South Africa, and all those places. There, it was young people. Those even in freshman college, those people were the people who were the foot soldiers of the war.
Yeah.
So anyway, Wee Deba here is sadly reminiscing about a strike in Bong Mines that government forces crushed, and here he is reflecting on that. Normally, you have to keep in mind that a poem has its own voice.
Yeah.
So that when you see a poem, even if you know the person who wrote it, you cannot say that the person who is speaking in the poem is
that
the same as the poet.
Yeah.
Except, of course, if there is a background information to say at some point that this guy said that he was talking about himself in the poem. You don't just ordinarily, when you see a poem and you see the I and what have you, you don't come to a conclusion that it is the person who wrote the poem who is speaking in the poem. So here, some child who has seen this is talking. As I stand on Zawieta Hill, gazing at the Bongmai Range mountain, my mind goes back to that dreadful afternoon when, for the first time, the children too were joining their parents' heroic struggle. Here I watched, seeing and feeling fascinated by the brutality of bourgeois state power, of police and soldiers armed with America's machine guns and pistols, facing striking workers and innocent children armed with sticks and stones, of trigger-happy, underpaid policemen shooting defenseless workers and 12-year-olds, of screaming women crying for their loved ones, Yoko, Yoko, Yoko. And I began to see Soweto all over again. No, my mind went beyond Soweto. My mind was the reflection of cotton fields and the urge for freedom of the landing of the forefathers and Matilda Nipo's cannon. Of the laborers of Fernandopo and the unification policy, of rally time and the hard time poor people are catching. Of the eating of government money and the struggle for change. But if I have to struggle, let it be for those defenseless workers and school children of born minds who have tasted the salty fruits of oppression. If we must struggle, let it be for the hard time our people are catching, so that the future will be a future of the oppressed people, freed from the octopus of oppression. That is the poem titled, If We Must Struggle. This is more like making a promise. This is more like taking an oath that whatever may come our way, we will not stop until our people are free. So this is the marker that the person in the voice in the poem lays down.
Wow. This idea of struggle.
Yes. They never, you know, it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. That is all the reason why there has to be moment of all moments that leaders continue to be engaged on the suffering of people, so that even if they cannot do all, they should be able to set a stage where the suffering of the ordinary people will be kind of minimized.
Let's move on to short stories.
Okay. Now, You will see. Well, the next batch actually the next batch actually are also poems, and you can see that maybe we can do just one whole poem to see how the repetition of certain phrases and what have you can also increase the mood that is created. There is a poem by Dylan Thomas, and in that poem, we are a child is looking upon his father who is passing into eternity, and this child is pleading with the father. Of course, some writers say that in the background it is Dylan Thomas, something that passed between him and his father. But generally, we say that this poem is a poem in which a child is devastated seeing his father pass into eternity. Normally, when I have this poem that I'm reading it, I always like the students to kind of pick up the refrain and run with it. But in any case, do not go gentle into that good night by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the night. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the song in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could have blazed like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the side height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. That is the end of Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. Here, he kind of pins, the speaker pins a lot of scenes and said, these people, even with all the power they said they had, they didn't go gentle into the good night. So, Daddy, if all these people, none of them ever went gladly into that good night, which is death, how dare you? Why? It's almost like, where are you leaving us? Please, like those people, try as much as possible to fight it out.
Do not go.
Yeah.
Wow, that was moving, and I like how you read it. And we were talking earlier about writing and reading.
Yeah.
And you said that some will write, and not that is a manners.
Yeah.
But there is a way, because even what one person reads, another person reading is different.
Yes.
Like Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know where he got that from, but the way he read.
That like, and back home we say that guy was a genius.
Yeah.
And that's what they will say when he captures to read something. Yes. That man.
Yeah.
Yes.
That takes us to the short story, but let's take a short break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to go into our short stories.
Okay.
Don't you go away.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back. We are discussing a trip through the craft, poems, and short stories with Dr. K. Moses Nagbe, and this is the Literary Hour. Prof, we delve into some poems. Let's go into short stories.
Yes.
Let me see where your examples are.
All right. These, you will say that why didn't he pick modern short stories and what have you? But there's something about literature. In most instances, the messages or non-messages that come out of literary works can be so powerful that they run through so many years. Barn burning, William Faulkner, I always talk about William Faulkner. This is a guy, he will begin writing one sentence, and that sentence will go through several pages. He will not put punctuation marks there until he gets to full stop. And I tell students, when I bring this up, I tell them, well, before he got to a point of not being able to put or refusing to plant punctuation marks in his work, he had to go through the rigors of grammar.
Right.
It was after he did all that, and some guys were able to say, yes, this guy knows the stuff. That's when he turned around and he began doing something you would call his own style. Another person that often come to mind is E.E. Cummings. That guy, he will turn rules of capitalization upside down. In fact, his name, E.E. Cummings, he often wrote in lowercase letters. Anyway, so we come to barn burning. One of the things you will find about short stories is that short stories has its own set of features, or you call them elements. Right. You talk about plot, you talk about conflict, you talk about theme, you talk about so many of those things, setting and all that, climax and all those. Now, so if you say that this is a short story, the person who is occurring with whatever you're talking about should be able to identify, or you who wrote the story should be able to identify those elements. And if those elements are not in there, then of course you have yourself to blame, or you have to justify why those elements are not in there. In most instances, people easily run with the themes of short stories. Themes meaning the message or messages that people can pull out of the story. In barn burning, something to evoke the days of sharecropping. Sharecropping in days of immediately past the they immediately passed the period of slavery, what the slave masters did was to tell those people, well, okay, these fields you are not working for beating again. We won't beat you. You will work for us, and then after you work, and then I will take all the expenses and other county. I will take the money from there. Then the small thing that remain there, then you and myself will divide it. All kinds of foolish little tricks. Oh my God! All kinds of foolish little tricks. These slaves are these slave masters. And you think that people can so easily forget about slavery? No. So you see a story like barn burning in this thing here, where this guy was often working and what have you, and he seemed not to be getting headway because every time the slave masters would cheat him. So he got to the place of secretly burning the fields. Every time you burn the fields and what have you, and he said, I know nothing about it, just leave me out of it. I try my best to, but anyway, I guess he did it so much until his son got pissed up. The son got pissed up one time and ran to one of the master's homes and divulged the fact that his father really had been the one doing the burning and what have you. The main thing happened to be, is it justifiable? Is it justifiable for somebody who is your blood person to go and what? To go and snitch on you, to turn rat. So that is the ethics that this short story discusses. That reminds me of Ousmane Seben of Senegal. In his novel, which is God's Bits of Wood, one of the officers of the company who turns a renegade, who turns on his people, his own nephew, and so they kind of snitch on him, and the strikers catch the guy and flock him to nobody's business. So actually, it's always the thing about what should the ethics be? What should the ethics be? Is it ethical for a son to turn on his father, or a father to turn on the son? That is the theme or the psychological dynamics that that story deals with, which is barn burning by William Faulkner. And the other one is, back home.
Freshman English.
Yes, that's it. Now, people who may not be occurrent with, Italian phrases and whatever. That title is The Cask of Amontillado. Yeah, the Cask of Amontillado. So the double L comes out with a Y. The Cask of Amontillado. And one of the scary writers, scare producing writers in American literature is called what is it? Edgar Allan Poe. He wrote all these gruesome tales and what have you. And that story is a story of revenge. And one other thing I see through it is that no wickedness hides forever. No wickedness hides forever. The other thing is human blood is nothing to play with. Human blood is nothing to play with. You may think you have power and you go killing people, doing this and doing that, either for dark energy and what have you. If nothing troubles you and you die, somebody in your family, some group in your family are going to pay for the heinous behavior and what have you. Yeah. So in the story, there is a guy called Lucrece. Lucrece happened to have a friend called Fortunato. All those names have things to do suggestive of their own characters and what have you. But anyway, this guy, Lucrece said at some point in time, his friend Fortunato insulted him so much, and that he would never allow something like that to go. So, and Fortunato happened to be a braggart. He will say he knows this, he knows that, and what have you. So it was this kind of bragging behavior that Lucrece used to nail him. Something of that thing can come out of the story too, that beware of something you love so much. If people know that you like Dumbo and you can never rest on the eat lot of Dumbo, if people know that you can't rest on the eat lot of fufu and you stuff your stomach and what have you, you will use that fufu to just bait you and what? Yeah. And like they say in Labre, DB die you, kill you. All right. So yes. So there was a carnival. And this Lucrece had planned to kill Fortunato. So it was the carnival that he used to bait the guy in. He said he had a cat. He had some wine, but he didn't know whether it was the real thing or not the real thing, because Fortunato will always say that he was a connoisseur of wine. So he said, the guy, oh God, these writers. So
the liquor won't kill you.
Yeah, how he did it was, he said, I found something, I don't know whether that's a real thing, but since you are under the weather, I think I'm going to go to find another person to do it. He said, who told you? That guy doesn't know anything. Come on, I'm going to go with the... All that was much of a ploy to destroy the guy. But anyway, so Lucrece decided, Fortunato said that he was going to go to find out, and that's how he gradually drew the guy in, and Lucrece took the guy to the family plot, Lucrece's family plot, and he had built a vault. The guy just laid out the plan. He had built a vault, and that's where he finally said, "But my man, where the wine?" He said, "Oh my man, let go. Everything will be all right." Like some of the goons are doing in Liberia, killing their fellow human beings like nobody because of power and all that kind of nonsense. Yeah. So he said, "Go with me," and he went in there. This guy was already drunk.
Yeah.
This Fortunato was already drunk. So whatever was happening, how much of it did he know? He helped the guy into the vault, and can you just imagine? He didn't even he didn't kill the guy. He just put him there and sealed the place there. Now he is telling the story. He is telling the story 50 years after the incident. 50 years after the incident, he did it so well because actually, when Lucrece was at home, all his servants, they had gone on the carnival. You see how setting is created to make believe, verisimilitude, to create the plausibility that how could this man have servants in that place there and nobody will talk about it? No, but in the story, the servants went to have jolly time because it was carnival season. That's how Edgar Allan Poe, gruesome stories he would tell.
Yeah. So Prof, we talk about literature, the importance of literature.
Yeah.
We went through some poems and now 2 short stories.
Yes.
How will you summarize this as the trip through the craft?
Yeah. The summary is that we have to be able to deal with the questions. Did we talk about how writing is done? Yeah, we talk a bit about it. Did we talk about the importance of it? Yes, we talk a bit about it. And within 1 hour, it's just one of these things. What we normally do is to whet the appetite of people. So it will be time now for people to go out there and look at what is done and what the purpose often is to be achieved and all the kind of a thing. So in a quick, because we say a quick trip through the process. Yes.
So generally, one watching the literary hour every Friday, what should they expect and what should be the action items for anyone watching this show?
The thing about it is that we come to celebrate the creativity of humanity. We come to celebrate the thinking capacity of humanity, what thinking can produce, what creativity can produce. And of course, we set the stage and anyone can run wild with it. You know, I have a few things that I often call professional side orders. One of them is painting. When I was doing my training in painting, one of the professors said, all we do in here is that we just whet your appetite. What you become tomorrow depends on you. What you become tomorrow depends on you. We tell you these are the brushes. We tell you these are the pencils. We tell you about perspectives. We tell you about mixing paints and all that kind of thing, colors and all that kind of thing. Now go and paint. So here we kind of touch on a lot of things, mixing history and literature together. And then in the process we say, now you heard those things, go and find more. Go and find more and enjoy yourselves.
Thank you. Few comments here. Lloyd Jella is watching.
Yeah, Lloyd.
Eugenia talk about the road not taken. I think you probably read it. And after reading that poem about the father and son, you say brilliantly done, Professor.
Thank you, buddy.
That when you were talking about the cast of Amontillado.
Yes.
Or Amontillado.
Yeah, Amontillado.
So let's go to some commercials here. I will tell you of what's coming up.
Yes.
Saturday, tomorrow, we're going to have a debate. Who should have the CPP ticket? Or who should the presidential candidate be? And so we have George Preston Lobo from Team Buakai versus Emmanuel Yato from Teams Cummins. We'll be doing a debate here, and I will be here to moderate along with the political bulldog.
Wow. It's going to be a show.
Yeah. Sunday morning, there are some young guys in Monrovia. They are in Newtown. They are raising money because there's a vocational school. This Alex tells me his friends came to America and say, what do you want us to help you with? He said, well, in our area, there are a lot of people, they have no skills, so no work. Yes. So if you can help us to get students in school to learn something with their hands so they can work. And so based on that, they started sending these mainly girls to vocational training school.
Wow.
People have graduated now, the money runs out. And so they just want to raise $900.
Okay, what?
To send another batch to school.
Wow.
And that's the show. So they're coming here Sunday morning so we can have a show. So if you are watching, please dig into your pockets to help these students get back to school.
Yes.
And then later that day, we're going to have the Labyrinth Dream.
Yes.
With Leo Napolo Johnson, the CPP framework, a crisis beyond politics.
Yes.
Leo, man, this guy can deliver. You don't want to miss it. It's 2 p.m., the Labyrinth Dream.
Yes.
Rob, you wanted to say something about the project in Newtown, about the students?
Yeah.
No, I said you were saying something about the project in Newtown that Alex and his friends are doing.
Yeah, no. My thing is that these are powerful things. And I like to see, of course, they will say, put your money where your mouth goes. The thing about it is that the kind of vocational institutions that you have, I hope that one you just talked about will be part of it, is that it should be one of those that as soon as the child graduates, he or she can set up shop. He or she can set up shop and become his or her own employer.
Definitely.
That's the kind of thing Liberia needs. And I hope that over time, people will kind of rig the resources to be able to help.
Definitely. Then on Tuesday, annual physical and routine medical exam FOL health contributor, Mrs. Abby Giltala and FNP will be here to present this. So we're going to be looking at your annual physical and those routine screening. Why are they important? What is the provider looking for when they do these screenings or they do these physical?
Yes.
And from those physical, the numbers, what do the numbers mean?
Wow.
And, you know, people talk about when you are not doing the routine screening, right? It's witchcraft. So we're going to see what role witchcraft have to play when you don't do your annual physical and your routine screening. Join us, that will be on Tuesday.
Yes. And I, having come from rural background, what have you, I think we should change an understanding of some of these things, and that can easily backfire. People should understand that there is something called dark energies. They are there.
Yeah.
But to just sit around and not do anything and everything, just throw it in a way of dark energies is not a good thing. Because in the Bible itself recognizes the existence of dark energies. Yeah. Well, we should be able to say that you must be able to do your work first. Do your work first. And if all those things are done and something else is happening, then we can say, well, that's dark energies that did that. That's the kind of dynamics I want people to always discuss when it comes to witchcraft and screening and all that.
And Tuesday, that's happening at 7 p.m. Prof, I want to thank you so much for this time. You know, I try to be here for Jackie. I don't think I did it. That has been.
you better stop it. Even though I miss my miss Jackie, Nina, Sayegh, but actually, DJ, you were a good proxy, and the questions kept coming, and I'm sure it turned out very well. So thank you so much. You did very well.
Thank you, Prof. We want to thank our viewers.
And you know very well that I'm not given to superlatives. You know that very well. So when I say that you did it, you did it.
Thank you. We want to thank our viewers also for watching, and even those who are going to watch later. Yeah. Keep it here at Focus on Liberia. We do a lot of things. This is the only platform you will find in the diaspora that does everything when it comes to everything. We are not just focused on politics. Yes. We are education, literature, health, chemistry. Yeah. You name it, we're there and we do our best. So please keep supporting us, keep watching us. And even if you have little, cash laying somewhere and you want to donate, please do not hesitate to send it our way. Our Cash App and our Zelle numbers are on the screen. Prof, let's conclude with your final and closing comments, sir.
All right. Again, thank you so much for bringing us together. And I continue to urge people. Language has value. Literature has values. Both have enormous values. Try as much as possible to keep working on your language, keep working on your critical thinking skills, and I'm sure one fine day things are going to be okay with you. Thank you for watching. Peace.
On that note, we end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians."
Yes.
Good night and God bless you.
Yes.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.